This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is they're calling it a Category 5 thunderstorm leader fan radio network.
Sorry, KFAN.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 18 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Saving Time. Welcome back. It is a Thursday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a suddenly improving Thursday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. By that, I mean a little better weather. Clouds are parting. And it appears to me that the sun is out. That might not fit the mood for many of you out there, but we'll be getting into all of that between now and 6:30 this evening. My name's Dan Barreiro. I host the program, and Guardsy produces the show as well. Going the distance today until 6:30. Closed circuit to, pretty much anybody who inhabits, traverses the Target Center Skyway. The cage is available for rent on Friday. Cage is available for rent.
We've got to pick up a few things from there, I'm told.
Is that true?
Yeah, we've left a few things that we need to clear out. But other than that, it's going to be open.
So it's a little cleanup. They sort of like what happens at the end of the Great Minnesota Get-Together, right?
Yeah.
You got to clean up the location.
Right.
Get it, fumigate it, perhaps.
Right. Or what the Wolves are doing today, cleaning out their lockers, getting their stuff, getting ready for the rest of the summer, which is now upon them.
The Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is open. 646-86. 646-86 is the text line. And let me just say at the interim, we are glad. In fact, I've talked to, do we call it IT, the technical people?
Yeah.
And there is a 1-day release on all of the individuals who've been blocked. For the rest of this show, up until 6:30, it's wide open. So if you are from the state of hockey and you think, boy, we got these guys now, what are they going to do now? What are they going to say now? Have at it. Whatever you text us, no matter how many times you've been blocked in the past, bring it on. Bring it on. Because
really,
they think they got us. They think they got us. Like we're supposed to, what? Apologize? I guess that's what we're looking for here. Apologize for the basketball team reaching the Final Four for the second consecutive year? And we're supposed to suddenly feel better about the fact that, did you know how competitive the Minnesota Wild were in several of those first-round games?
I don't even remember that series.
I don't either. Who they play? Doesn't even matter.
I think Halby went to Vegas a couple of times.
Nobody has any idea. Nobody in the larger hockey world cares about the Minnesota Wild. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. You got to be a little bit more relevant. So if the closest you can do to feel better about your irrelevant little club is to revel in the fact that for the second consecutive year in Game 5, and we ain't exactly going to run from it, we rarely do on this show, the Minnesota Timberwolves not only were eliminated in the conference finals, but were humiliated in the conference finals. Have at it. Let it all out, my friend. Let it all go. Again, let me be not the first to remind you that in doing so, all you really reveal is how little you've got. That the only thing you have is the opportunity to revel in the misfortune of another team that, again, for the second consecutive year has gotten you to a place, gotten the team to a place that the Minnesota Wild haven't even been within a sniff of since Jacques Lemaire. Right? How many years ago was Jacques Lemaire taking us to the conference finals? It's a long time,
2003.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's over 20 years, isn't it?
22 years, yeah. I think I can do that math. 2003 was the Wild's only run. 2004 was the Wolves' first now with 3 runs to the Western Conference Final.
That is correct.
22 and 21 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. A lot of life has been lived for all of us.
I will tell you that, our guest lineup today is very good. Sam Mitchell will check in at about 3:30. I know he has some very strong opinions on what took place last night in a series in which, like me and like you, he predicted the Wolves would win. He said 6. I said 6. You said 6. Can we all say it together? We were wrong.
We didn't get that one right.
We were not even close to being correct. I'll raise my hand. You make predictions. Some of them come true, as they did in the first 2 series, to the positive, and some don't. And I was utterly wrong about what this team was capable of doing. Well, I shouldn't say even capable of doing, what they did do against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I will say, and I hinted at this yesterday, but I kind of let it go. I do not want to hear any longer the battle cry from the Wolves locker room about how we do our best work when we are facing the most seemingly insurmountable odds. Let's just end that, okay? This season was not I would not classify, in the words of Giannis, the Greek freak, it's not a failure. I do not describe this season as a failure. I don't think, even if you get no further than you did a year ago, when you reach the Final Four and your core is still relatively young and you make a big trade, seismic trade, right before the training camp begins, I will not call this season a failure. I don't know if you will, but I won't.
I will not.
It's not going to work. That doesn't even add up. But I don't want to hear any more about we do our best work when we're up against it. Because for the second consecutive year, Game 5, and we talked about this a year ago. I think I was more disturbed by it than some other people, but they were not even close to meeting the moment in either Game 5. That's disturbing. That's a failure within the realm of how you finish. That, I do believe, because it's happened 2 straight years, should have some impact on the Wolves going forward and what Tim Conley does or doesn't do. Game 5 last year, we were down 35-19 at the quarter, 69-40 at the half. The game was over. That was at home, too. This year, we're down 26-9 at the quarter, and we're more than doubled up. We're 65-32 trailing at the half. We had, I think, more turnovers than baskets, at least in the first quarter. I don't know about the second quarter. I've got the play-by-play here if you want for the first quarter after we went up 3-0.
Yeah. Couple offensive rebounds, nice possession.
Gobert, loose ball foul. McDaniels, 13-footer miss.
Get used to that.
Jaden McDaniels misses 16-footer. Julius Randle misses 22-footer. Mike Conley misses a driving layup, a floating jump shot. Conley misses a 24-footer. Hartenstein blocks Julius Randle's 2-foot 2-point shot. McDaniels misses a 23-footer. McDaniels misses a 23-footer. That's in a row, by the way. That's not me just stuttering.
Yourself?
Yeah. Julius Randle loses a ball on a turnover. That was the Caruso steal, which the play was so deliberate by Randle that you probably could have stolen it too. Anthony Edwards makes a 1-foot 2-point shot. Edwards misses a 27-footer. Randle commits another turnover, out of bounds, bad pass. Naz Reid, out of bounds, lost ball, turnover. Nickeil Alexander-Walker misses 15-footer. Naz Reid, lost ball, turnover. Hartenstein steal. Nickeil misses a 2-point shot. Anthony Edwards misses a driving layup. Chris Finch, technical foul. A lot of good that did. Coming out of a timeout. Nickeil misses a 3-footer. Anthony Edwards misses a 25-footer. Nikhil misses a 26-footer. And then, of course, the home team wraps it up on a brilliant pass from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was a maestro in the opening quarter, to Carson Wallace on the right wing. He makes a 23-footer right at the buzzer. It's 26-9 at the end of one quarter. And there we to the question on, well, what is Julius Randle going to do with the fact that in his most recent game, he was an embarrassment? Nothing in the first half. He was awful in the first half. He might as well have been, it's like he was participating in Summer League in the first half. His point total ended up being respectable. Game's over at that point there. We're trying to cut it from 35 points to, 25, basically. Absolutely meaningless. So, no, it could, as a finish, it could not have gone any worse. You were not competitive in 3 of the 4 losses, so this was not a close series. So one of the things, the mantras that the Wolves are going to have to work on is they're going to have to stop with for me at least, push us hard. Go ahead and push us against the wall and then see what we're going to do. Because honestly, now some of it you can say in the first quarter of going through the play-by-play is you just missed a bunch of shots. So everything looks worse when you miss that many shots. And there's some truth to that. But defensively, they weren't connected. And the silly turnovers, the careless turnovers, and the ongoing obsession, especially from Naz Reid with the officials, was revolting for me. I came as close as I've come in a while to turning it, just saying I'm done. I
started working on some stuff.
Yeah, you at least had it on the background.
Started looking ahead.
Yeah.
Planning out the next couple of weeks, seeing if there's anything we were going to miss or we needed.
It's absolutely. It couldn't, again, national TV against obviously a good team that's going to be favored to win the title and might win 3 in the next 5 years, barring injury. You couldn't have done less to say, well, at least, hey, they were just overmatched. That went well beyond that one. And because it's the second straight year it has happened in Game 5, it actually bothered me more than the first year. Let's pause. We'll get some Guardsy thoughts, and then we'll get plenty from Sam Mitchell, as I said, at 3:30 today. Our old ball guy, Kevin Kernan, the lover of the nerds, 4:30. There's some good baseball stuff to get into with him. And then we expect Kevin Seifert sometime in the 5 o'clock hour to check in from Vikings offseason camp. And then we're going to try to squeeze in, if it all works, Dr. Dan's inbox as well. If you want to get ahead of that, email Guardsy, JG.
And if we don't get to it today because we're squeezed, we'll do it tomorrow.
Exactly it. So go ahead and
send the letters.
Them.
We've got a bunch of them that are already good and definitely timely for today or tomorrow.
So it was more, for the entire first half, more turnovers than field goals, correct? That was the fight. Was it 14-12?
14-12 sounds right. Yeah, that's the number that I remember.
Sounds like a bad football score.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's not good.
Yeah.
Either. So the rumors, by the way, have already begun. You know that, right? I mean, the body is not cold, but this is how it works pretty much in every sport.
Yep.
But certainly in basketball. It's already begun. I heard it again just a couple of hours ago. The Timberwolves worked feverishly before the trade deadline, feverishly, to try to fashion a miracle, which would have been to pull off a trade to acquire Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
a miracle because I think we're definitely this year's second apron. I think they might be first or second, and it's much tougher to make that. There would have to be like a series of like 6 individual trades to do it. So in theory, it was possible,
right?
But in practicality, with the little time left, it was almost going to be impossible, which is very different than the ongoing reporting, which I believe that the Wolves were feverishly attempting to try to when I say Wolves, I mean Tim Connelly, to fashion a miracle before the deadline. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that it's coming up again, that the Wolves will definitely be in that mix. And the funny thing about it is, if it involves draft choices, the feeling is it might be something that has to be done pretty fast because the 2025 draft is approaching.
It's about a month away. You're right. I'm pretty sure, because I looked at it during the season. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but Wolves, of course, were second apron, as you mentioned. I think they had the second highest payroll, second or third. Pretty sure Phoenix was first by a large margin. So when you're talking about 2 teams that are in second apron meat grinder hell, it is almost impossible to get anything done, especially when you have that deadline during the season and some teams are motivated, some aren't. This could be a very interesting next few weeks for a number of different teams and a number of different players as everybody's trying to figure out second apron life.
Yes.
Either get out of it or get themselves some more room underneath it, the whole bit, as they try to piece things together.
So and we'll have plenty of time, and I'll get into the Durant question with Sam for sure. You and I have talked about it some before, and I think for me, it's going to largely depend again on, well, what are they getting back? How much should you have to give up as much for him as you would have 2-3 years ago?
Correct.
37 years old, I think 37, or either 37 or approaching 30. He might be approaching 38.
He is approaching 37.
Oh, approaching. Okay.
He was drafted in 2007.
Okay.
By the Seattle Supersonics.
Think about it.
That's how. Yeah, I do. That's how long he played his first year in Seattle, I believe, before they moved to Oklahoma City. That's how long Kevin Durant has been in the league.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So we'll get to all of that in due time, and certainly with Sam Mitchell and others, I'm sure in the coming days, because it's going to be a big. I mean, the obvious next step is, well, what do you do? Is it too emotional to consider another seismic move because of what just took place? When you step back, do you go, look, they're still in the mix? I think we have pretty declarative evidence they're not in the championship mix. I don't know that I can say that at that point, but they're in the mix. They're relevant for sure. And you just made this trade, and before the season began. Tweaking is okay. You make a couple of moves around the margins. You maybe even consider lineup changes, whatever the case may be. Maybe you give the kids a little bit more of a chance to move up, but don't panic on the bit. Leaving all that aside for the moment, how did you process
last
Game
night?
5? Yeah.
The thought that I kept coming back to, as even I watched the third quarter, I don't know how all these guys, maybe not Ant as much, because I think Ant was ready. He was making, he was going to the basket early. He was making passes. Jaden had, yes, as you mentioned, 12 wide open shots in the first 3 minutes and basically missed all of them. I kept sitting there and watching Mike Conley play his ass off, doing everything he possibly could do in terms of hustling, getting rebounds, defense. He's obviously been a limited shooter all season. He's been very up and down. He's talked about that with you. And I can't believe that any of those guys could actually look Mike Conley in the eye last night as they went back into the locker room. As a guy who's 107 years old in his 47th season, the guy that they talk about is, we want to do this for him. He's a great vet. Everything he says is perfect. He told the whole production crew before Game 5 that we had dinner last night. I made sure to talk to our guys. Like a guy who's doing everything and giving everything to try to maximize however many opportunities he has left. I can't imagine being his teammate last night and looking him in the eye after the game and feeling good about myself, because that was a dreadful effort. It was, and that's not even controversial. And as much fun as this run has been, and as well as they've played since Randall came back from injury, all of that stuff can still be true.
Yes.
But what I said last night, and I'll say it again, is that last night strips away a lot of goodwill with a lot of people. Maybe not the hardcores, maybe not even me, but it strips away a lot to me. I think you lose a lot of the goodwill when you just give up like that in the first half and have no interest in engaging the battle, no interest in extending your season. Fans, I think, had kind of talked themselves into, all right, let's see what happens. They played close the other night. It's a desperate group. Let's see how things are going. And it was pretty obvious within 7 or 8 minutes that they were almost like, oh, Oklahoma City is actually going to really continue to do what they've done for the last 2 full seasons and be really aggressive and be all over us and be up in our mix. And we almost felt like, well, we're not up for that. Well, almost. They weren't up for it. And so I was very frustrated because it's just disrespectful to the fans. It's disrespectful to the game. And to me, most important, it's disrespectful to 72-year-old Mike Conley, who, from my eyes, was the one guy that was playing with some kind of desperation. And he's not going to be able to carry you to the NBA Finals.
Because
he is what he is. But I like that you're going to go out like that with him on your team. Maybe I'm being too romantic about it, but I would just feel so guilty. I was watching his press conference with Ant. I mean, he looked like he knew. I mean, he looked as down as I've ever seen him look.
No, you heard the quotes from him.
I did. We'll play some of them.
He flat out said they're a level. In several ways, they're a level better than us.
And he's 100% right.
He didn't put any varnish on it at all. And it's funny because we heard again all the usual lip service about how backs against the wall. This is when we're at our best, and we're going to give it. And the game began, and you almost had the feeling that, as you say, what I would have asked Edwards after, or any of the players, were you guys as surprised as you seem to be that the other team played as connected and hard and as convicted as they did? Because that's how it came off. It literally,
right.
I'm watching Ant in pregame, and he's got the big, that sort of confident,
he's lathered up.
Good smile. He's got that big smile on his face. Like, I wonder if Ant knows something going on here. And it was almost like he said, like, well, let's just start the game and we'll just sort of figure the thing out. Probably not against anybody, but not against that kind of operation.
No.
That's a machine right now.
It is.
And it was almost like, I didn't know they were going to do that. I mean, weren't they supposed to be maybe getting a little bit cocky? Like they didn't really need to win the game like we did? It's just, and again, we are back to, for me, a major issue on officials. We can continue to play the game and we can get the stats out on SGA or they're grabbing us or they're holding us. You can do that all you want, but you're not going to get any better. You're not going to get to that place where you have a real chance to win a title if you play the victimization deal. And I thought we were done with that when Cat left, but we're not. And Naz has now become, in his own way, I think, as destructive about it.
Yeah. I think it's worse.
I look a whole different way. On Naz, well, realistically, they're going to have to either pay him or he's going to leave. It's going to be one or the other, right? He's going to opt out because his money is nothing. $15 million at this point. Yeah. And he can get probably $25 million a year in his sleep, right?
Yep.
But there was nothing about the performance that said, all right, we got to gird ourselves, man, because it may not matter if we give our best punch. They may be that good at home and that ready that this is their time. But seriously, that's it. That's what you got. It does. It has I think especially coming for the second straight year, and I think this was actually worse, more embarrassing than last year. It does strip away a lot of whatever goodwill you think you have created. Let's see what Sam Mitchell thinks. We'll take a quick break. He is coming up next. You have questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. As always, it is 64686. All right, I'm going to try a Sam Mitchell text because Guardsy's first attempt. Oh, he might have called. Maybe he called back, or is he trying again? I'm going to try texting him in case. I'm guessing he might be on the golf course. Do I have the right time? Yeah, I said 4:30 Eastern. This is 4:37 now Eastern, correct? So So let's go with, are you ready for conversation? And hopefully he will call us back. Should I give him, Guardsy, the hotline?
I would, yeah.
Just
I called him twice, so he should have it, but it's worth it.
Just in case. I'm guessing he's bitter that he bogeyed 16 on his favorite golf course in the greater Atlanta area.
He's a pro, though. He moves on to the next play.
He does, yeah. It's very, very true.
You would think.
So we're waiting on Sam Mitchell. We hope to get him soon. We've got Seifert today. We've got... do we know a time yet on Seifert? It's going to be sometime like in the fiver?
I was just texting with him during the break. Okay. 5:15.
5:15?
Yep.
And then we'll try to... if we can mix in, if we have time, I think he's calling the hotline right now. We'll try to squeeze in the inbox. If we run out of time today with the inbox, we will encourage your contributions because we should have the opportunity to get into it tomorrow. And that, of course, you can reach Guardsy, JG at KFAN.com. Sam is... let's find out. Were you like pouting because you just bogeyed 16, or were you busy with something else?
Dude, we have tornadoes here in Atlanta. Ooh. So actually, I'm checking on my sister-in-law and my niece because in the area they live in, a tornado has touched down over there. They're okay, but
that's good.
Yeah, but Dan, it's been raining here for like the last 3-4 days, and it's just drenched, man. And today, I mean, it's pouring. It's been pouring for the last 3-4 days.
Man, oh man. Well, you can always move back here,
Yeah, deal with all that plus the cold.
It's a beautiful day today. So actually, it's about 72 today. Not too bad.
That is nice.
I mean, we had sleet about a week ago, but you know how that goes too. All right.
Yep.
The floor is yours. I didn't get to hear as much of you last night as I had the previous game. But I'm assuming I'm going to, as much as I think I know about you, I'm assuming as positive as you've been on the Wolves run this season and this team, that you were not very pleased with the way they went out in Game 5.
No, Dan, the body language, when they first stepped on the floor, the way that game was literally over the first 5 minutes. And you could see it in the Wolves' face, in their lack of energy. You could see it in their lack of detail. And then, Dan, what tells me that was the case, when the game is out of reach, that's when it first started clicking. That's when certain guys start making shots.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 40 down,
yes.
That's when you look. And now you look at the stat sheet and you say, well, this guy played well. No. It was just, and the thing that I saw in the Wolves' face, Dan, and I think the reason Anthony Edwards kind of felt the way he felt, he knew OKC was just better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he couldn't find any space to operate. There was nothing he could do to play better. And then the bench played well at times. Other guys had moments, but OKC big three, man, Shea, Williams, and Chet, they just dominated the Wolves. They're just better from top to bottom. And I think Anthony realized that. And, Dan, what do you do when you realize the other team is just that much better?
We spent a lot of time on yesterday's show discussing how I felt, and we had John Krasinski on, and he I think kind of agreed, who covers the Wolves and was in Oklahoma City for the Game 5 carnage, that last night was a big game in an odd sort of way, beyond winning or losing, for Julius Randle. That Randle had, by virtue of how miserably he had performed in the previous game, maybe sort of stripped almost all of the goodwill he was getting for, changing the whole narrative about his career and so forth. I was troubled by him in Game 4, and it didn't get any better in the first half. Like you said, his stats will look respectable because he started making shots when the game was over. But, Sam, I found it pretty damn disturbing for a guy who's not a kid now, right? He's 30 years old. Speaking of body language and performance that we saw there, that I was disturbed by it. What did you make of it?
I feel the same way you feel, Dan. That's meant nothing because the game was over. You look at his facial expressions, his body language, his lack of energy. When that game first started, it was just non-existent. It was almost as if he was pouting. And then still the same old careless play, the same old turnovers, trying to dribble past one guy into another guy. I mean, how many times does someone have to do something to you before you realize they're good at it? And you just keep turning the ball over. So I'm like you, Dan, look, the Wolves got an interesting offseason to decide. According to you, Julius Randle could opt into that $31 million.
Correct.
And what he's going to have to think about is, before he opts out, is there somebody out there willing to give him a 4-year deal? But let's say $1 million a year. Somebody willing to commit $120 million, $130 million for 4 years to Julius Randle, considering that he was in the perfect place, the right system, but again, he just can't get out of his own way. So, Dan, it would not shock me if Julius throws out some feelers and ends up opting in to that $31 million.
If he opts in, do you want him here if you're Tim Conley?
Well, if he opts in, I'm not going to just not team, but I would sit down and have a very, very, very long and very frank discussion with him.
Yeah.
And I would just tell him, this is how we need, this is the role I see you in. This is how you got to play, regardless of how you feel. You may not, you may not agree with it, but all the numbers and the data and all what I see tells me this is when you're at your best on a team, and this is when you hurt a team. And I would coach and manage him accordingly. When he's playing the way and in the position I want him to, he'll get significant minutes and opportunities. When he's not, he'll come sit but I would make an emphasis. If he opts in, you got to bring Naz Reid back, because to me, that insulates you in case things don't go the way you need them to go with Julius. Having Naz, because Naz can start and play alongside Rudy Gobert. And you can say this in the playoffs, that the Wolves actually looked a little bit better with Naz and Rudy together, just simply because Naz would throw the ball to Rudy when he steps in. And then, again, some of what Julius does, it infects the whole team. Now you see Nas trying to dribble all over the floor and make plays. Dad, what drives me crazy, when did these 60, everybody 6'9", 6'10", they can dribble and be Magic Johnson now? It just blows my mind. Just because you can dribble a little incy tiny bit, it don't mean you need to be trying to dribble the length of the floor and make plays. Hey, man, just stay within yourself.
Where are you on Mike Conley? We all appreciate and know what he's meant to the team, his contributions, right? But there's got to be hard questions asked every offseason. And, you can't get too emotional. I'm sure you agree on the basis of that last game, because it has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. You got to think above that. You can't make emotional decisions. And Conley, I think I've told you this, he's on our show every other week. He's a great contributor to this program. We have nothing but, and I know, nothing but respect for his professionalism. But are you going to have to take, is this team going to have to take a look on whether, if they can find somebody else, that it's time for, if you're going to keep Conley here, for him to come off the bench as opposed to be a starter? What do you think? Because I think this is all related to how you get Anthony Edwards to to the next plateau as well.
Exactly.
What do you think? Yeah.
I think that's exactly where it's at. I think he could be a spot starter at times, but I think you need to be grooming someone else. And then, Dan, I would like to see this offseason Anthony really, really work on his ball handling, his playmaking ability.
Yep.
If they're going to put the ball in his hand and he played he's got his decision-making, making ability, his comfortable ability with handling the ball without looking at it with pressure. It's the next thing and the last thing he's got to add. But until that happens, play with a bigger point guard, with somebody who can take. Now, Dan, look, this may blow your mind. With Nikhil as my point guard next year, because that size in the backcourt matters. And if you saw in the playoffs, they just took advantage of Mike. On defense. I mean, the guys were just bigger, quicker, stronger. Even when the Wolves played zone, he couldn't keep the guys in front of him. And look, that age, that's just wear and tear. It's not personal. It happens to everybody. Every player who's played long enough have seen their skills and their diminished over time. So it is what it is, but I do agree with you. It's time for them to look at another starter. And again, you got some young talent on this team, but I wouldn't be afraid to go with Anthony Edwards and Alexander in the backcourt. And I would let them in the offseason so both of them could put the work on their ball handling and decision making, because you need some size and you need a little strength at that guard position now, because point guards today are not 6 foot, 190 pounds, 6 foot, 180 pounds. They're 6'4", 6'5", 200 plus pounds.
I need to ask you a coaching question today as well. And that sometimes could put you in kind of a ticklish position. And I'm not here calling for Finchie's head or anything close to it. But I do need some help here, because I was talking with Krasinski about this yesterday, and I said, look, one of the things that has struck me through the first 4 games of the series is that it feels like Oklahoma City's offense, they've got some talent, obviously. Their big two are damn good. But it appears to me the offense itself affords them some easier opportunities than what is afforded Anthony Edwards and even, you could say, Randall and others in the Wolves offense. Sometimes it feels like it's really hard on the Wolves side of it. And Johnny said, look, some of that is that Finchie's philosophy is, I'm free-flowing guy. I don't like to be the coach that's constantly calling plays. I just I want people to react to the situation. And there's a part of me that says that sounds good if you have the right group. But if you don't, it seems to me you might have to add more structure. You might need to call more plays. And that's part of what is sort of keeping the Wolves maybe in the current plateau that they're in, which is a damn good team, but not a team necessarily ready to take the last step. What do you think?
Dan, I agree with you, and I know that blows your mind. Look, this is what I would say. Look at how OKC is built. They're young. They're used to playing with pace, with movement. Other than Shea, everybody knows about 30 to 32 minutes because of the effort we require and how we pass and cut. Okay, the corner offense. You know who invented the corner offense? A guy named Rick Adelman.
Rick Adelman, yeah.
You know whose son just got the job in Denver? David.
Yep.
So when you look at, that's what they run. And the corner offense is designed for continuous movement, moving, cutting, DHOs, things of that nature. Now, a lot of teams want to start the season and play that way, but look at your players. Can Rudy play that way? Can Julius Randle play that way?
Yeah.
Nas playing. Anthony Edwards can play any kind. Right now, the way the team is constructed, you need to play more like that because that's what the better teams in the NBA, how they're playing. But right now, with some of the guys, that's not how they play. Julius Randle, can you see Julius passing and cutting and moving without the ball?
No.
He doesn't feel like a basketball player unless he has the ball. So to defend Coach Finch, he may want to play like that, but the personnel on this team won't allow them to be as good as they can be trying to play like that. Julius Randle's not going to accept playing like that because guess what? He don't have the ball. The only guy that has the ball and is allowed to dominate the ball at OKC is one guy.
That's true.
And that's Shea.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets one, 2 dribbles max, and they got to give it up. So Dan, to your point, they need to play. If they're going to have this same structure, then I agree with you. He may have to call more plays because when he did call plays, the plays that he called forced Anthony Edwards to get downhill.
Yeah, right. Sam?
I'm here.
Oh yeah, I think it may be the storms. Like you're kind of cutting in and out, and then that you may have just stopped. I thought you still had more to say. Sam
no,
Mitchell.
but Dan, to your point though, they're going to have to look at this, and again, is a lot going to depend on what's the roster going to look like next year.
No doubt.
Because I got a sneaking suspicion that Julius Randle is going to opt in because Dan, when the new contract first kicked in, all these guys got paid. They were just throwing around money. Now all of a sudden, teams are reluctant. They don't want to spend money anymore because they understand it's hard to trade a guy when he's making $30 million a year.
Very true. And I don't know how much demand there's going to be for him at this point either. I mean, maybe sometimes it only takes one team, but I think it will be an interesting question. Let me ask you another one that is already rearing its head, and it did before the deadline. There's no question that the Wolves tried extremely hard to acquire Kevin Durant before the deadline. Now, they didn't, and then we had Tim Connolly afterwards, and he said, well, there's nothing to tell you because nothing happened. And I expect that kind of answer from him. But there's no question they worked hard to try to get it done. They didn't. So the question again that comes up is that everybody knows that Durant is going to be traded. So where are you on how he would fit in, whether he's past, he's approaching 37 years old. His teams haven't done very well lately. Guy can still score, obviously. So how interested should the Wolves be in changing? Because that would obviously be a major departure. You're going to have to give up some pieces, one would assume. Should that interest the Wolves? Is that a short-term sugar high, but not really the kind of sensible move that makes sense long-term? What do you think?
If I could move Julius Randle and I could slide Kevin Durant, listen to me carefully. This is what I would consider. Rudy Gobert at the 5, Naz Reid at the 4, Kevin Durant at the 3. If you're going to bring Kevin Durant in at 37 years old and put him under the basket and tell me that he's got a battle with Chet and Hartenstein, guys, young guys like that,
yeah,
I would tell you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to bring him in and play him at the small forward position where he don't have to get in there and get beat up, where he can play free flow, where he can use his offense as a better part of his defense, then I would seriously consider doing it, and probably would do it if I could include Julius Randle in the deal. But I would only do it if I'm going to start Naz Reid at the 4. Because, again, to me, Kevin Durant is not – the older you get, the less you just don't. Mm-hmm. And at 37 years old with the injuries he's had, do you think he really want to get down there with those elbows with Hartenstein and Chet and do that every night at that power forward position? Now, you'll do it sometimes in the playoffs for minutes and here and there. But to me, Kevin Durant's a scorer. You got to keep him clean. If I could do certain moves and play him at the small forward position, I would do it.
What if you're going to have to give up to at least one other player, maybe Jaden, Dante DiVincenzo. Let's say.
No, I'm not giving up Jay McDaniels.
That's what I was
he
asking.
has a chance to be the best perimeter defender in the league. No.
So if that's the deal,
Dante,
you walk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I need.
Yeah,
Dante, you consider, correct? Yes.
Look, I would consider it. You're moving Julius and stuff, and it'll look like you're losing pieces, but you got to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Do Julius for the money? Is Julius really going to fit what you're trying to do long term?
That's a fair question, yeah.
And Kevin Durant, in the short term, to your point, the sugar high, if you play him at the right position, in my estimation. Yeah. Now, if I can play him at the small forward, I would strongly consider doing it.
I mean, he averaged 26 points last year, shot over 50%. Again, bad team, we get all that. But I do think the idea.
But now, if you add him, Dan, you're going to have to run plays.
Well, yeah, right. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true too. But how does it work? Would that take significant offensive pressure off Anthony? Would that be the kind of move where with Ant he could really profit from having that kind of number 2 scorer?
All day long, because no defender in his right mind is going to leave Kevin Durant.
Right.
They're just not going to do it. And then you got to be creative in your offense with Kevin Durant. You got to get him coming off some down screen. Kevin Durant is at his best when he operates in space.
Right.
So the first thing I would do is go back to Golden State and look at some of the plays that Steve Kerr put in for him. Mm-hmm. Second, I would sit down with Kevin Durant and say, all the places you've been, give me your favorite couple of plays that was ran for you that got you in space, in the spots that you were comfortable to be the best you could be. And then I would implement those plays, and I would add them to my current offense. I still would play free-flowing in the way Coach Finch wants to play. But when the game gets stagnant or in these tough games, if things slow down, that's when I know in my back pocket I can run these sets and I can get opportunities and shots for Durant and my team. Because, again, you can't, with a 37-year-old, you can't go play like OKC does.
No, definitely not. You're right. You got to do it the right way. Now the unanswerable question. If the Wolves still had Cat instead of DiVincenzo and Randall, would a series against Oklahoma City have come out any different than it did?
They would probably still be playing right now. The way Cat has played in the playoffs, his scoring. Because what has been the Wolves' hardest thing? Only one game they could score. So think about it from this standpoint. Because Cat can shoot threes the way he can shoot them, and then Cat would take you off the dribble and get downhill to the basket. So, and then his size, rebounding. Look at Game 4. You can just make the argument if they clean up the glass, regardless of everything else they did, turnovers, they still win the game. Right? Karl-Anthony Towns going to rebound. He and Rudy together going to rebound. And then that would have been a different animal for OKC, because now, how does Chet and Hartenstein play a little different? How does everybody else play different? Now when Cat comes over, he's not a great shot blocker, but heck, he's still 6'11".
So let's fit one last thing on Oklahoma City. I think part of what happened during this playoff run is that because Denver took them to 7, I think I fell into this trap a little bit. I said, well, they're really good, Oklahoma City. They have a historic regular season, but Denver, a team with a series of injuries, took them to, and not a very deep team at all, took them to 7, which made me think, in the playoffs, maybe they're still not ready to quite figure it out.
You ain't the only one that fell for it, Dan.
I think we all did. So is that the lesson? Is it we need to give Denver a little bit more credit? Because obviously, by the end of this series, Oklahoma City looks like they're going to win 3 titles in the next 5 years.
Dan, I think we didn't give that young coach, David Alleman, in Denver credit at all. To force a Game 7, and then you look at the injuries that they were dealing with as a team. You look at everything they had to deal with, and to force that team into a Game 7, I think it proves that this young man is not just ready to coach, but he's really ready to coach. And so I think that fools us all, because we're looking at Denver saying the Wolves are better than Denver. Mm-hmm. And if Denver could take it to 7, the Wolves can actually win this series. But again, what we didn't understand is that Denver is so secure in who they are as a team. And the Wolves still are trying to find that out, Dan, because we thought they had figured it out. We thought Julius Randle had figured out how to fit with this team perfect. And then all of a sudden, man, in 1 game, in 2 games, he just changed the narrative. Dan, think about something. How do you change the narrative about how you play and how you fit in a team in 1 game?
Well, let me give you the comeback to that. The comeback to that is it shouldn't in 1 game, and that we're all overreacting. And we have to factor in Oklahoma. There are no other OKCs. Nobody plays defense the way OKC played it this year. So is it possible that we are putting too much stock in this and overreacting?
And we could be. And I look, we could be overreacting, but let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. How are they going to beat OKC then?
Injury.
Now, if you're playing for second in the Western Conference, if you're happy with getting to the second round in the Western Conference Finals and then getting beat in 4 and 5 games, that's fine. It's something to be said for that. But, because you keep giving yourself a chance, a bite at the apple, but are you really giving yourself a chance when the team that you got to look up, Dan, they're younger than you.
Yes.
Their core is younger than your core. So if they just beat you 5-4-1, and they're still under the cap. They have no cap issues. They still got a multitude of first-round picks. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I just saw some today. Their entire team is coming back with 2 first-round picks on the roster. So ask yourself, can you beat them? And then ask yourself this. If you stay stagnant, who behind you is going to catch you? Because those teams are going to try to do something. Yeah. Dan, we're going to see everybody in the Western Conference start tweaking. If you're an old team that can't defend and can't move, I'll blow it up right now. Because what I'm looking at now, if you're trying to put together a team with 2 or 3 old superstars, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, good point.
You can forget about it. You're just wasting money and wasting your time because you're not going to beat them young boys. Hell, Dan, you ain't going to beat the guys come off their bench.
Yeah, that's true. They only have about, 6, 7, 8 guys who can play defense. I mean, that's the part that...
everybody on their team can play defense.
I mean, that's...
Their worst defender, if you go back and look at the games, when the games got tight and they went offense, defense, who did they take off the floor?
Shea.
Yes. And guess what? He never says a word. He's standing. He ain't coming off the floor like when they come in for him. Me? Yeah, you. Because you're not the best defender. We're trying to win. He comes off the floor. He stands up. He's cheering. He understands. Yeah, I play D. I try. But those guys are better than that at me. And we're trying to win.
Enjoy.
So their team is just different, man.
They are. That's very true. They're very fascinating. All right. Enjoy the hoops tonight. Are you on post game tonight?
Not tonight.
They gave you the day off, huh? Good for you.
I'm on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, they got to spread the wealth. I'm on tomorrow, but hey, it may not be a tomorrow. Yeah. I really believe the Knicks. I would be shocked. I would be more shocked. It was going to be hard for the Wolves to win last night in OKC. I just thought they would have fought. Harder or different.
A little.
I would be shocked tonight if New York can't win this game at home.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although I like the way the Pacers play, man. They're fun.
Hey,
they are a lot of fun.
We might just be shocked again.
That's very true. Thanks as always, my friend. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Sam.
All right, Dan.
Be safe. That's Sam Mitchell. Says some bad weather, tornado weather in the greater Atlanta area. I think that may have had something to do with the connection getting a little bit difficult at times, but we got through it. We always appreciate his contribution.